Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Good evening, friends. One of those evenings you go live, you take a sip of water, it goes down the wrong pipe. I'm still recovering from that. Welcome to this November 4, 2014 edition of Nightcast. To open up with, I think I got it under control there, friends. I've been fighting off a cold as it was anyway, and a few other things I've had to deal with. But let's take a look at something exciting happening in the sky of Western Japan. People of Western Japan have reported sightings of a sparkling light racing across the sky last night, Monday evening. Experts say it was probably a fireball, meteor, a piece of an asteroid that ignites upon entering Earth's atmosphere, and any surviving fragments most likely ended up in the sea. A remote controlled camera at the airport recorded an object emitting a strong green light, while another camera at Hatakata Port showed a faint orange light. So that's what's happening in Western Japan as of last night. Here in the United States tonight, friends, November 4, Americans are voting in midterm elections, which will decide who controls the Senate and pave the way for the 2016 race for the White House. Now, we know that in ultimate control is God, who allows us to have over us in power what we deserve, or what the majority of the people in the country reflect in the way of obedience to God. If we obey God, as God says in Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28, he gives us great blessings, makes us the head, not the tail. He makes us the lender, not the borrower. He says that 5 of us will chase 100 of our enemy, and 100 of us will chase 10,000 of our enemies. That applies to all of the tribes of Israel around the world, Manasseh in the United States, Ephraim in the UK. And on the other hand, God says, if you don't obey me, then just the opposite of that, the cursings. And if you still don't obey after the opposite of those things and cursings, you'll be the borrower, not the lender. You'll be the tail, not the head. And in the report tonight, we have people talking about how we've gone from the preeminence to the bottom of the barrel rung. And God allows those who one man calls our leadership inept. God will allow inept leadership when the people are disobeying, and that'll help to take us from the head to the tail. That'll help us to take us, which we've been in for a long time, from being a lender and instead being a borrower. Let's go to this report, where the polling booths opened in the eastern states at 6 o'clock in the morning local time. The Republicans, who already control the House of Representatives, well, you'll see how in this report or the next one, they only need to gain just 6 seats to take the Senate. But this report, on a train ride of people in Virginia, Rajini Vadanathan reports from one of the key battleground states, West Virginia, which may be about to elect its first Republican senator for half a century.
West Virginia, America's mountain state. For more than a century, the South Branch Valley Railroad has been used to ferry passengers and freight.
Tickets?
For many on board the Potomac Eagle tourist train, these elections are being viewed as a verdict on President Obama, even though he's not on the ticket.
As an individual, he's a nice person. However, he is inept in making decisions. He's taking this country from the preeminence of power and respect, and that I believe that we're down at the bottom.
Polls suggest the vast majority of Americans feel the country's on the wrong track, and more than half blame President Obama and his Democratic Party.
He does err on the side of caution, so there's definitely been criticism about waiting with Islamic State. I hope that we did step in soon enough.
The Republicans, if they take the whole thing over, they'll just go their way. And even I don't even think they'll come to consensus. That it seems as though that's what's going wrong with our country now. We're just not agreeing.
What happens here could change the country's political landscape. West Virginia looks set to elect its first Republican senator in 50 years, taking the party a step closer to winning control of the US Senate from the Democrats.
The feeling here and across America is that these midterm elections might not make much of a difference unless the politicians in Washington can put aside their differences and work together, something they've not managed in recent years.
But the outcome in these elections will set the scene for President Obama's final 2 years in office and shape his legacy. Rajini Vaidyanathan, BBC News in West Virginia.
Okay, and friends, we actually really don't get involved in politics per se here on this program, but we do report the news, and Rajesh Mirchandani takes us through how the BBC will use its virtual reality studio to reflect the election night results.
Welcome to our results studio here in London, or as I like to call it, my box of toys. As you can see, I've got a giant map of the United States here. Not golden arches, but red and blue ones. Red for the Republicans, blue for the Democrats. If the Republicans win a seat, that red arch grows a little and the blue arch shrinks, and vice versa. This is how we'll update the winners and losers throughout the night. So, big picture over on the big map, and then details we'll get over here on my trusty touchscreen. Now, this is actually what we're really focused on, the Senate race, the upper house of Congress. There are 100 members, 2 from each state. This is how the parties stand right now. Democrats in the blue, a majority of 55, including 2 independents who usually vote with them, and the Republicans have 45. So if the Republicans were to gain just 6 seats tonight, then this happens, 51 to 49, they take control of the Senate. Now, I want to show you these darker coloured arches. They are seats that are not in play tonight, so they won't change. But these lighter shaded areas, they represent the 36 Senate seats that are up for grabs. So in actual fact, if the Republicans take 6 seats out of those 36, then the Senate would turn red. And that would actually give the Republicans control of both houses of Congress, because look at this. This is the lower chamber, the House of Representatives. They already have a majority there. Now, the House is much bigger, 435 seats in all up for re-election every 2 years. Currently, Republicans 233, Democrats 199, 3 seats vacant. It is highly unlikely the Democrats will take the House. If anything, the Republicans are expected to extend their majority. Now, whenever I want to tell you about specific results, I just go to my coloured buttons down here. So, for example, let's show you the state of Alaska, and here are our candidates. Mark Begich was elected in 2008, wants to retain his seat, but he is in a really tough fight against the Republican Dan Sullivan. Thank you for now, gentlemen. We'll be probably speaking about you later on in the evening. In actual fact, Alaska is one of a dozen or so key races that we're watching tonight. Some of the others are states the Republicans could definitely take. Here they are: South Dakota, Montana, West Virginia. Looks like they're pretty much already in the bag for the Republicans already. But what happens if both parties end up with 50 seats, right bang in the middle? Then we have what we call a Biden majority. As Vice President, one of Joe Biden's functions or roles is as the President of the Senate. That means he has the casting vote if there's deadlock in the Senate. That obviously helps the Democrats. But Republicans, they will not want to get to just 50, of course. Remember, a net gain of 6 seats would give the Republicans control of the Senate and of Congress.
Friends, we go next to news that relates to, on our chart, the second seal from Revelation, which on our chart is depicted by a red-colored bar, which is to indicate that Revelation is depicting the second seal as a red horse, which Jesus Christ described in plain language, has the activity of war and rumors of war and world war. And over in Libya, fighting has intensified between the army and the Islamist fighters in the Libyan city. Let me get this up on the screen so we got our red horse up there with it. In the Libyan city of Benghazi, residents say a Libyan Navy ship docked in the city was hit during the heavy fighting. Libya has been in a state of flux since Colonel Gaddafi was overthrown in 2011. Niha Bednagar has this report.
Migrants attempting the perilous journey from Libya's coast in the hope of reaching Europe. These pictures given to the BBC were taken by Tripoli's Coast Guard in May, a time when they still actively surveyed a 150-kilometer stretch along Libya's coast. They claim these patrols stopped at least 7,000 illegal migrants from making this journey every year. These patrol boats aren't used much these days, and even when they do venture on patrol, their capacities are limited. They cannot sail further than 8 kilometers from the shore. This is just a fraction of Libya's vast Mediterranean shoreline that needs to be monitored. But it hasn't been monitored, at least in the Tripoli area, for 3 months. The Coast Guard here tells me they simply don't have enough logistical support to do their job. They say the Europeans are only training them. Libya today is seen as the easiest departure point for illegal migration to Europe. Fueled by the political chaos and militia rule, thousands have paid traffickers to take them on the risky journey to Europe. Many perish at sea. Now, the Tripoli Coast Guard say they are no longer on the lookout for migrants.
When we see a boat in good condition, we don't arrest them anymore. We have no health insurance. We're exposed to gunfire from smugglers. So on what grounds do we risk our lives for the benefit of Europe?
It is men like these who often end up trying to make the crossing. Most spend months working and living in dire conditions just to make enough money to pay for the journey. Migrants like Kofi from Ghana say they are poorly treated in Libya. He believes that in Europe, life will be better.
Now, friends, you know, we've been giving you reports on migration and how Germany and the UK are having a big row because of it. Now, this report was with Rana Jawed, reporting from Tripoli. I pulled this one for you because I thought this report would be interesting, especially to hear where the man is saying, you know, why should we risk our lives on behalf of Europe? And I wanted you to see that things in Europe are stirring up news that is interesting to follow. Now I do have the video I was introducing to you a moment ago with Nia Batnagar reporting about the trouble in Libya. I just got these two videos out of order, so here's that report.
Gunshots and fierce fighting. This is Benghazi in Libya, the center of the 2011 uprising that overthrew Colonel Gaddafi. This area is a stronghold of the militant group Ansar al-Sharia, blamed by Washington for the attack on the US consulate in 2012 that killed the American ambassador. The group is listed as a terrorist organization by the West, including the US. The army started its campaign last month to regain Benghazi from the militants. More than 200 people have been killed in the fighting so far, many homes destroyed. On Monday, the army asked them to evacuate the area by noon local time. Then the firing started. Libya has been in a state of flux since 2011, divided between two rival governments, tribes, militias, and political factions, all fighting for power. Although the government was elected in Libya in June this year and is internationally recognized, it was ousted from Tripoli after hostile militias took control of the capital in July, and then it was forced to flee to Tobruk. Some members of the old parliament have also continued to sit in Tripoli and have appointed their own rival government, although that is not internationally recognized. Meanwhile, Islamist groups including Ansar al-Sharia have declared a caliphate in the coastal city of Derna. And much of Benghazi is in the hands of Islamist fighters, some with links to Al-Qaeda. The anarchy in Libya continues for now, and these scenes from Benghazi highlight the promise of the 2011 uprising is far from being fulfilled. Neha Bhatnagar, BBC News.
And friends, I have one more video related to Libya. This one's a 45-second video, and it's one produced by Michael Hurst. He usually does 60-second outlines, but this time he's done this one in just 45 seconds. I often even slow the 60-second ones down. I have to kill the music because of the difficulty it is securing a license for the music when we play these on in our archive on YouTube. So I just kill the music, kill the audio, and slow them down and read the little scripts at the bottom for you, because Michael, you often flash those by real fast, and unless somebody's a very fast reader, sometimes they won't get them. So I'm actually stopping. I'm actually pausing the video while we play it so that stays on the screen longer, and then I usually read those to you. But here in this video are some of the reasons the country of Libya is so lawless. Again, this is video produced by BBC's Michael Hurst. The country is awash with weapons. It says there, militias who ousted Gaddafi reject authority. 3 prime ministers since March. Still no constitution. Well, you see this next point. Over 1,700 rival militia groups in the country, Libya. Split along regional and ideological lines. And this little video was to give us tell us why Libya is so lawless. And, of course, the rest of the world, even in the United States, friends, is pretty lawless when you take a look at a lot of the laws, even that are being passed by the courts in the last several months. Craziness going on, passing laws that are extremely ungodly, especially those that are related to marriage as in opposition to the way God himself defines marriage. It was God who instituted marriage. And friends, I've got a report for you next that this one, if we were to put our chart up on the screen here again, I'm going to pull this forward. You notice the very first column has a white bar, has a little white horse up at the top of it. And the first seal of Revelation is depicted by a white horse, which Jesus Christ described as religious deception. Christ saying, "Let no man deceive you. Many will come in my name, saying that I am in fact the Christ, and yet they'll deceive many." And this next story relates to that first seal. Shia Muslims have been marking Ashura, a major religious commemoration of the martyrdom of Hussein, a grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. Imam Hussein died in the Battle of Karbala in modern-day Iraq in 680 AD. This video shows how Shias in Iraq, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Iran have marked the day by reenacting the battle and with mourning rituals. Some Shia men seek to emulate the suffering of Hussein by flagellating themselves with chains or cutting their foreheads. So you'll have a warning that there may be some things you don't want to see in this video, but they've mostly been cut out anyway. So this one relates to that first seal, the white horse.
حيث أحاط الأعداء بخيم آل بيت الرسول الكرام تحيط بهم من كل مكان.
Some Shia Muslims mark it by reenacting. Here mounted soldiers surround and set fire to Islam Hussein's battle camp. The killing of Hussein led to Islam's split into two main sects, Sunnis and Shias. Islamabad, Pakistan. Here Shia mourners are trying to touch a horse which represents the one which Hussein rode. Some Shia believe that taking part in Ashura washes away their sins. Now we're in Bangladesh, Dhaka. Some Shia men try to emulate Hussein's suffering by flagellating themselves or cutting their foreheads. However, some Shia leaders say it creates a negative image and encourage blood donation instead. Now in Iran, Tehran, Iran. Black-clad mourners chant poems and words from the Quran during Ashura processions. The day has become a national holiday in several countries with Shia Muslim populations. Okay, friends, I thought there might be some value into showing you that. Next major item from today's news comes from Hong Kong, the Hong Kong murders. The family there is mourning the death of their daughter. The father of one of the women found murdered in the Hong Kong flat of a British banker has said the family is struggling to come to terms with her death. It's very difficult for us to bear this news, Ahmad Kalaman told the BBC. His daughter was one of two women who were found dead in the Hong Kong apartment of 29-year-old Rurik Jetting from Surrey. Yesterday he was remanded in custody after being charged with the murder. The BBC's Karishma Vezwani reports from the island of Java.
In this remote part of central Java, a village mourns one of its own. This is a Muslim grieving ritual. Family, friends, and neighbors all gathered here to pray for the soul of 23-year-old Sumarti Ningsih, a young girl who spent her teenage years in this village. She was also one of two Indonesian women who was found dead in the flat of a British banker in Hong Kong.
It is very difficult for us to bear this news. We completely depended on Sumarti. She looked after all of our needs. She was our lifeline.
Sumarti's parents say she went to Hong Kong to work in a restaurant. Some media reports have suggested that she was a sex worker there, but they say that's not true.
Only a mother can truly understand what it feels like to lose a child. She wanted to go to Hong Kong because she saw others in this village make money when they went there. She wanted to do that for her family.
Sumarti's 5-year-old son hasn't been told about her death. Her parents are afraid he won't be able to bear it. This is the man whose flat Sumarti's body was found in, British banker Rurik Jutting, who lived in a luxurious Hong Kong high-rise. He was remanded in custody on Monday after being charged for her murder and that of another Indonesian woman, Seneng Mujiarsi. In this village, 80% of the women leave and find work elsewhere. They have no choice. There are no jobs here. Few of them have any education. Sumarti was no different. All she wanted was to build a simple home for her family and provide a better life for her son. Her family is still trying to cope with the loss of a daughter, a mother, a lifeline. All they want now is for her remains to come home so that she can be buried with dignity. Karishma Vaswani, BBC News, Central Java.
All right, friends, and during the report, there was a mention of letting her soul be and buried in dignity, and I pulled a couple of scriptures that relates to the soul and the spirit of a man. This first one from Genesis 2, verse 7, it says, "And the eternal Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul," not an immortal soul, but a living soul. And if we go over to 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 53, we see, talking about the resurrection, it says, "This corruptible must put on incorruption, this mortal must put on immortality." So just a little clarification on a small point of something there related a little bit to this story. But I wanted to end on that story tonight, friends, to help us to have something as we are praying before we go to bed tonight. If you're watching this in the evening live, or from the archive even this evening live, to have something that helps us to pray, "Oh God, thy kingdom come," and help these people who are suffering deaths of their loved ones in a world where evil just seems to run rampant. Friends, that's it for our Tuesday night report. God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be back again tomorrow night, Wednesday evening, with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy here on Nightcast. Until next time, this is your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying so long, friends, and good night.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on COGTV.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the COGTV.org video archive.